In 2025, an American court did something that had never happened before. It allowed the genetic code of 15 million people to be put up for sale as a company asset. Nobody hacked it, nobody stole it from a vault. A judge approved it, and it was completely legal. Now imagine the most personal thing you own. Not your phone, not your diary, your DNA. The unique code written inside every cell that makes you who you are. Now imagine you mailed it off to a company in a little plastic tube in exchange for a fun report about your ancestors. And then that company went bankrupt. So what happens to your DNA now? Who owns it? Who is allowed to buy it? This is the story of 23andMe, a company once worth about $6 billion. It collected the genetic code of around 15 million people, one of the largest DNA libraries ever built by a private business. And then in 2025, it collapsed. And in the wreckage, the most intimate records imaginable, the genetic profiles of millions of families, turned into something with a price tag, something a bankruptcy court could put up for sale. This is how a company that promised to unlock your DNA ended up putting it on the auction block. To understand the fall, you first have to feel how irresistible the dream was. 23andMe was founded in 2006 by a woman named Anne Wojcicki, and she was about as close to Silicon Valley royalty as it gets. Her husband at the time was Sergey Brin, a co-founder of Google. Her sister ran YouTube, and Google itself was one of her earliest backers. The idea was genuinely thrilling. For all of human history, your genetic code had been a sealed box. 23andMe cracked it open for about $99. You spit into a tube, you mailed it off, and a few weeks later a report appeared. Where your ancestors came from, what traits you carried, whether you might be at higher risk for certain diseases. The world fell in love with it. Celebrities threw spit parties. Time magazine called the test the invention of the year. It felt like the future had landed in your mailbox. There was one near-death moment early on. In 2013, American regulators ordered the company to stop selling its health reports, afraid the results might be wrong, and frightened people. Even then, the government was nervous about what this company knew about your body. It almost ended right there. But 23andMe survived, kept selling ancestry, slowly clawed some approvals back, and the customers kept pouring in. 10 million of them, then more. By the peak, around 15 million people had spit into a 23andMe tube. In 2021, the company went public, backed by the billionaire Richard Branson. It raised nearly $600 million in cash. The stock market debut valued the whole business at around $3.5 billion, and then shortly after, at its very peak, the market valued it at roughly $6 billion, 10 times more than it had just raised, built on a promise it had not yet kept. On paper, Anne Wojcicki was one of the most successful self-made women in America, but hiding underneath that beautiful number was a flaw that would quietly kill the whole thing, because nobody was asking the one question that mattered. If this company ever died, who would get the DNA? Here is the flaw. 23andMe only ever got paid once. You buy the kit, you find out where your great-grandparents came from, and you never need to buy it again. No subscription, no reason to come back. You only ever need to learn where your family came from once. And once almost everyone curious had already spit in a tube, the growth simply stopped, and the losses began. The company bled money, year after year, hundreds of millions of dollars in losses. A subscription service could not fix it. Quarterly losses ran into the tens of millions. So Anne Wojcicki placed a daring bet to save it. She decided the kits were never the real treasure. The data was 15 million genomes is one of the largest collections of human genetics on the planet, and drug companies would pay enormous sums to search it for the next blockbuster medicine. So in 2018, a pharmaceutical giant called GlaxoSmithKline paid $300 million to team up and search that genetic database. In aggregate, and only from customers who had opted in, the two agreed to split any profits from the drugs they found. On paper, it was brilliant. Your DNA was no longer just the product. It had become the raw material for an entire drug pipeline. But there was a catch nobody could escape. Inventing a new medicine takes 10 years and billions of dollars, and the payoff was always somewhere just over the horizon. The cash kept flowing out. Almost nothing came back in. The bet was that the data would save the company. Instead, that same data was about to become its single greatest danger, because the one thing the entire company truly ran on, the trust of its users, was about to shatter in a single announcement. In October 2023, 23andMe admitted that attackers had gotten inside. And here is the uncomfortable truth. They did not smash through some advanced wall of security. They simply took passwords that people had reused from other websites and logged straight in to about 14,000 accounts. That alone would have been bad enough. But 23andMe had a feature called DNA Relatives, designed to connect you with everyone you are related to. So once the attackers were inside those 14,000 accounts, they used that feature to crawl outward, quietly harvesting the profiles of nearly 7 million people. Names, ancestry, ethnicity estimates, family trees. And then it got worse than anyone expected. Among the stolen records were lists that targeted people with Jewish heritage and people with Chinese heritage, packaged up and offered for sale on the dark web. Think about why that is so frightening. A genetic database does not just hold a password you can change tomorrow. It can sort millions of people by their bloodline, by something they can never alter, often without them even knowing. For a company built entirely on the promise, trust us with your most private self, there was no coming back from that. The lawsuits stacked up. A class action settlement climbed toward $30 million, and later, inside the bankruptcy, toward $50. The share price fell by more than 99%, shrinking a $6 billion company down into a penny stock. In September 2024, every independent member of the board resigned at once, on a single day, in open protest against the founders' plans. And in March 2025, it was over. 23andMe filed for bankruptcy. Anne Wojcicki stepped down as chief executive so that she could come back later as an outside bidder, which finally forced the question that sent a chill through 15 million households. When a company like this dies, who gets the DNA? The answer was deeply unsettling. Legally, your genetic code had become an asset. Just like a desk, a patent, or a delivery van, it was now property the bankruptcy court could sell off to repay the company's debts. Attorneys general across America took the rare step of warning their own citizens directly. Log in today, they said, and delete your data before the sale goes through. Then the auction began. The DNA of 15 million people on the block going to whoever paid the most. A large drug company called Regeneron stepped up and bid about $250 million for the whole business, genomes included. And then, in a final twist, Anne Wojcicki, who had stepped down so she could bid as an outsider, came back through a nonprofit she had set up and outbid them. She paid around $300 million to buy back the very DNA she had spent almost 20 years collecting, this time wrapped in fresh privacy promises. So the data landed in gentler hands. But that is not really the lesson. The lesson is the precedent. The instant your most private information becomes a company's asset, it stops being yours. It can be sold, handed over, or fought about in a courtroom, all without you ever being in the room. And here is the part that should stay with you. With most companies, you are the product. With 23andMe, the product was literally you. Your code, your family, your future. You paid for the kit, and you still became the inventory. The kit was the bait. Your DNA was the asset on the balance sheet. And when the company died, that asset simply went under the hammer with everything else. So before you ever mail a piece of yourself off to a company again, it is worth asking one simple question. If they go under tomorrow, where does the most personal thing about you actually end up?